is the one that's in a separate little agenda item, separate little piece of paper, expansion of fair and equitable rates remissions, with quite a good report, very clear report with a recommendation, which Tim would like to move, and Paul would like to second, and Ali would like to... Okay. Do you mind, Tim, if Ali moves it? I don't need the Okay, Ali's moving and Paul's seconding. Right? Can I put it, though, Gianni?
To check on 5.22. So I wanted to move that that is included.
Have we got the staff person writing the advice? Sorry, guys. Haven't seen much of you today, people. We've been missing you.
Guess what I've been doing?
Okay, so the suggestion is in relation to 5.22, the businesses that are unable to be accessed due to surrounding fences.
Have you got it?
And the suggestion would be that, from Yanni, is that that be included. Do you want to comment on that?
So it is covered off with respect in the paper, particularly around 3, 4, 10 and through the analysis around this. In summary, we'd actually go back to the executive summary and talk about how the rate system is a taxation system. It's relatively cumbersome to administer and provides minimal ability to apply judgment. So it's those types of aspects are coming through. And we need to make sure that we're applying relief only when it is more efficient to do so through the rating system. Also, the rates currently, as you can see under 2.3, have the effect of increasing existing ratepayers' rates already. So it is a case of only using the rates mechanism as a help when it's absolutely necessary and appropriate under that. I might turn to Steve to talk about the particular one here that Councillor Johansson has asked.
Well, there was a particular example here, yeah, and my understanding is it's not a council or a SEER offence. So I suppose one of the key issues here is if we adopt something like this, how many people would actually benefit from it? Because in the main, my understanding is that the fences around town are private fences put there really for safety purposes, but there's nothing stopping the owners accessing if they've got agreements with their insurance company or any other contractor to go in and do work to the site. Why in the 3.4.12, the suggestion was that if we were to adopt something like this, we would have to keep it quite restrictive and keep it within the principles, I think, of what we've done in other cases where if people are being held up in their abilities to progress because of something that council or SEER is doing or not doing, then that makes sense. But like I say, my understanding of these fences is that they're generally private fences and that situation just doesn't apply.
Okay, thank you. It's very clear. The report itself is very clear. Do you want to move something different, Yanni?
I want to support that 5.22 and 5.23 I don't know, moved into be adopted. So, and I support the staff.
Okay, let me suggest that that we just put these separately so that we can cover it off. I'm assuming you've all read the report and formed an opinion.
Yeah.
Do you want to debate it, or are you clear?
Well, I'd like to speak to it.
Okay, so so the suggestion from Peter is that you just vote against 5. No, because he's okay with 5.2.1.
Yeah, no, I mean 5.2.
Okay, I'll put the clauses in 5.2 separately. How would that be?
Yep.
Okay, so 5.1 is where they are suggesting that this be adopted. Okay, this is moved by Councillor Jones and seconded by Councillor Lonsdale. Can I put that? I'm just putting 5.1 at the moment and all its subsets. Okay, those in favour please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Right, 5.21 is that it not be adopted for properties experiencing continuing significant delays in their insurance settlement. I'll put that. Those in favour please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Can I have a show of hands? No. So I'm putting what is in front of you. 5.2 suggests that the following not be adopted.
So if you do not want properties who are experiencing delays from insurance estimates,
To not get rates rebates because of all of the issues outlined in here. Yeah, okay, it is a double negative and it's confusing. Okay, so 5.2,
before we go on to 5.22,
I'm still on 5.21 if that's okay, because I didn't get a clear indication. So what is here, what is written here, 5.2, that is that this not be adopted, 5.2.1, right? I'm just putting these separately.
Vicky, I know you're about to vote on it. Is it too late to speak to it? Very quickly, because I just need to clarify.
It is actually, but I'll let you because you're always picky about other people. Go on.
You're right. I just wanted to make really clear about this, just in case there is some confusion, because this was one of the things that I originally brought up and wanted to look at. The report is fantastic and makes it really clear. Just to clarify further, the main reason why this is insurance delays, yeah? We're on that one? Yeah. The main reason why that can't be something that we can consider to apply a rates remission to is because it's inconsistent with the policies that we put in place relating to rates remissions or rebates. So we would actually be inconsistent with our own policies if we approved that.
Yep.
This is not something that council has any control over or is resulting from anything that
Yep.
council is doing. So I just needed to make that really clear because, yeah, enough said.
Yep, no, you said it very well. Okay. So I'm putting 5.2.1, okay, and that this is not be adopted for this. Okay, can I put that? Those in favour that it not be adopted for those, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, way past. Okay, those opposed? Does anybody want it recorded against? No. Okay, so that was passed. 5.2.2, that it not be adopted for that. So exactly the same. Did you want to speak to that one, Andrew?
I'd like to ask a question first of all, and then I might want to foreshadow an amendment, actually. If we look at the clause 3.4.11 in the report, any rates remission should in principle only apply where the fencing is in place because of council or CERA requirements. We don't know whether there still are properties that are affected by fencing which is there by council or CERA requirements. We're making an assumption that there may not be any or there may not be many, but if following the staff recommendation in 5.2.2 as it stands were to be passed, then there may be a small number of properties that may not be able to be accessed because of CERA or council fences that would actually fall through a gap that we may not choose to leave there. So if the amendment, what have we got? We've got a proposal by Yanni to...
Yanni's just going to vote against this, as I understand, aren't you?
Right, so...
So Yanni
so the
wants
amendment
to move,
is that it be included.
Yeah, so are you going to be more specific than that? Because let me give a practical example. Down Mackenzie and Willis Way, where that building that's burnt down, I'm assuming that's a council or a CERA fence that's there. I am not keen to subsidise the delay on doing anything on that with council monies. I want them to sort it and fix it.
Is at the community committee from High Street, and there's been only one other case I'm aware of, which is down around the lower Manchester Street, is basically these fences were sometimes put up because of the cordon. They weren't removed, and now there's confusion over who actually owns them. But generally the idea is that they would get a 30% rates remission, or they'd just go to the land value. So, you know, I wouldn't suggest 100%. But
Okay, so what would you like to suggest? Because we'll see if there's some traction for it.
Well, I wanted to move that they pay the land value.
Okay, so that, and you want to confine it to where the fencing in place is because of council or CERA requirements, and where the purpose of the fencing is to prevent owners and insurers from accessing the building, so that you're quite clear about who you're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not, I mean...
Well, let's just look at 3.4.11. Any rates remission should in principle only apply with fencing is in place because of council or SERA requirements and where the purpose of the fencing is to prevent owners and insurers from accessing the building. So can I suggest if you want to move an amendment, at least stick to some guidelines?
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm happy just to move 3.4.12.
3.4.12 is that it not be adopted.
Sorry, it's just the change to be adopted, but it's,
Oh, I see
The following
the
criteria is
suggestion
recommended.
there. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, what
Okay.
I was going to suggest was if this is, and it may well be that Yanni and I are talking exactly the same language, to move essentially the wording in
That's what
3.4.11
it-
as the amendment.
That there? Ah, okay. Any
Yeah,
rate-
I'm taking it from the paragraph at the top of the page, but it's the same thing.
Okay, so I think Yanni's just doing it from 3.4.12.
Yeah, great.
So
On that
Yanni
basis, I'm happy to
Yanni
support
is moving that a rates remission of 30%, consistent with other business remissions, should apply only in those wordings in that report. Chris, are you okay with that?
Just for clarity, at the risk of just repeating what we just said, response to Councillor Turner's previous question is you're correct, yeah, and there could be ones that fall through the cracks. The purpose of the report, the argument in the report is we're just not aware of any, that we believe it's just not something that's going to have a lot of volume.
Yeah,
but the
but in my
purpose of
view-
the wording here is for exactly this reason.
Yeah,
If you
in
do
my
want to-
view, if there are, I would want them included, and what's been proposed allows them to be included. There may not be any, but it avoids any business premises that may be in this situation from falling through the cracks, when it may not be council's intention to allow them to fall through the cracks.
And operationally that's achievable, they would approach us and we can do some investigation and figure it out.
So can I be clear on this? Mackenzie and Willis, for example, which I think just looks appalling at the moment, and the building next to it in High Street, would they now get a rate remission if we pass this,
I don't know.
given
because I
that
don't
that's
know
a
the case.
council or a SERA fence around them?
It would need to be the two
Yes.
criteria that are here.
Yes,
So
they
firstly,
meet
it's
those
our fence. So if
criteria.
it is our
Yeah.
fence, if the
Okay,
presence
I'll
of
be
our
voting
fence...
against it. Yep. Okay, can I, Yanni moves and Andrew seconds, is that right? What's here? Can I, those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? I'm definitely opposed. I want my vote recorded against it. Actually, I don't care. Right, so that one's carried. Okay, and then the third one is in relation to residential properties. Not subject, wow, okay. Do you have some comment on that, guys? What are you actually moving, Yanni, before they comment?
I just wanted to, I mean, it seems to me that there would be very few properties that are not red zoned that are in this category, and I don't know whether staff can give a number, but it does seem if your property has been demolished because it's unsafe, for example, because it had an S124 and it's now a vacant section, you don't qualify for rates remission. And yet, if you just had a vacant section and in the same, right adjacent to it, that had never had a house on, you're getting a full remission. It doesn't seem very fair to me at all. I don't think this applies to a lot of people. I think it might be just a small handful of people.
Can I just get some comment from staff? Paul?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. The original remission some time ago was related specifically to those Section 124 notices that were given under the order in council for rock roll and cliff collapse. It's always been the case that because Section 124 notices are attached to buildings rather than to land, if someone did have a Section 124 on their house, the logic behind that, just going back a step, is that those people are unable to live in their homes. They're also unable to make progress with any kind of insurance repair or anything else. There may not even be any damage to the home. It might just be the risk behind it. So the principle is the same as discussed before. They're unable to progress with their lives because of something outside their control. It's always been the case that if they did have a damaged home and demolished it, they're left with a vacant section. Because the Section 124 is therefore lifted, because there's no building left, then they are paying rates then on the vacant section in the same way as any other owner of vacant land. Now, that may have been an unintended consequence of the initial remission, and that's why it's being investigated here, because I think that's what was raised last time and what Councillor Johansson's raised before. The argument in this paper is saying, well, that logic makes perfect sense for, again, those situations where people cannot proceed with their lives because of something the council needs to do, and this is similar to the I've got to stop calling it that, the March flooding events, where people who are out of their homes, generally we didn't give them a rates remission, but if they're out of their homes and couldn't make progress until after we had done our remedial work, then we were going to give them a rates remission. And it's the same principle with this mass land movement here. People who can't progress with lives because of something that we need to do first, then we give them the remission. The argument in the paper here is that there's no one in that situation with rock roll, is what the Port Hills guys have told me, that there's no remedial work that council is doing for rock roll or cliff collapse. So there's no one waiting for us to take action, and that's why if we put this in place, there'd be basically no customers.
Young and I've both received a couple of emails from people who have sections. They're now under the district plan being put into category 1. So they can't do anything on their section at all. They can't build on it, they can't do anything. And some of those actually are in areas where we are actually doing some mitigation on some of the stuff around the peacock scallop and some of those areas there. I think there are a couple that actually will fit into this category.
Yeah, my question related to almost exactly the same thing that Paul's just raised. Are we assuming that there's nobody in this situation, or do we know that there definitely, firstly, is nobody in this situation, and secondly, is no one that will be coming into this situation? Because again, a little bit like the business one, I would rather set the framework so that we do capture anybody that subsequently appears to be in this group, even though we may think it may not capture anybody. I think it's worth doing to avoid any future inequity or unintended consequence.
Yeah, understood. It was definitive advice from Peter Doolin, who you may know, who's running the Port Hills work for us. He told me that the council is not doing any remedial work for, or general remedial work for rock roll or cliff collapse, and that's quite unlike the mass land movement where we are doing some, and so there are people in different situations.
Yes.
If you had a vacant section, and so...
Just tell us what you want.
So it should be 100%.
Far out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I just clarify, the cases that the council have received, have the staff, have they been referred to the staff and as to whether they would be eligible or not? Do we know about those as examples?
So I can just quote you one. So the email that I got...
The question is, have the staff been able to look at those to see if they would qualify?
Right, okay. Well, I'll pass that on to staff, so that's a great question.
well, okay,
Sounds
you're
like
moving
no.
100%. We're told that there are no people in this property, in this category. You're telling us there's 2. Okay, can I put that? It's moved, Councillor Johansson, seconded, Councillor Lonsdale. Right, okay, I'll put 5.2.3 as per there. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Right, it's carried. Okay, so I'll put that whole amended report as it now is. Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. And I think that takes us to the end of the public agenda. And there are 4 or 5 items in public excluded. Do you want a 5-minute break before we go into those? We need to get the filming out anyway. Okay, can we be back, because I'm supposed to have a 4 o'clock meeting, can we be back at 10 minutes? Is that okay, 3:55?